everywhere, have flag will travel. I met this guy. I went to Cleveland, Texas, and for those of you who don't know, that's in Liberty County. I had just gotten there, and there was this loud, booming voice behind me, and I turned around, and there was Dwayne Stovall. And he says, "Tammy Blair." And I had not met him except on Facebook. Now, my first impression was I was being accosted by a big, bald-headed bear. But he had this big grin, so I knew it was okay. And over time, we got to be friends. And I've discovered that there is no distance too far. There is no mountain too high. There is no foe too fearsome for Dwayne Stovall. Now, 2 years ago, we sent a lawyer to Washington, D.C. And he needs help. So right now, I suggest, my friends, we send a bear. I'd like you to meet my friend and yours, Dwayne Stovall.
Oh goodness, a bear. Man, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad we had such a good turnout. It's cold out there, and I hate cold weather. I'm a native Texan who likes it at 110 degrees in shade. How many in this room have ever heard me say anything personally? Yeah, big part of the choir is here. For those that haven't, I'm 48 years old. I spent a big portion of my life just about 20 miles from here in New London. My wife and I both graduated from West Rusk High School. Spent time at Kilgore College. Spent some time at Texas State, ran out of money, and had to go to work for a living. I am joined today by my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. That's how close I am to the house. Shirley and Father King. Love them to death. I hardly get to see them. My wife is mad because I am back in home territory and I don't have her with me, so she's jealous tonight. What's going on today is interesting. I've been at this for a year. I've been in this campaign longer than anybody else in the race. And I'm going to tell you now, as a non-politically affiliated green citizen of Texas, is basically all I am. I've got the largest campaign in the state of Texas. You hear that on your news affiliate in the evening time. They're going to talk about John Cornyn, and they're going to talk about Steve Stockman, they're going to talk about all the radio ads that are saying how conservative Senator Cornyn is. They're not going to tell you that there is a citizen statesman who has almost 1,100 volunteers across the state working very hard on his behalf. The message of true conservatism, true conservatism, big deal going on here, because I will separate the herd, and y'all know what I'm talking about. When I say we're all conservatives in this room, I'd be right? Okay, so there is absolutely no time that anyone in this room who would ever agree or see their way clear to accept a U.S. Senator or a Congressman ever voting to increase the debt ever again, right? Really? I mean, y'all would be okay with them raising the debt? No. Okay. Everybody in this room has a clear understanding of some simple truthisms, like you can't get out of debt by creating more debt. Yeah, I don't know who came up with that one in Washington, D.C. They're not selling it well.
Joe Biden.
I'll give you that one. Oh, yeah, I heard him say that too. Yeah. You mean we got to get up, spend money to get out of that? You're right. Yeah, no. Just to tell you how a regular citizen gets here. About 7 years ago, I'm 48, about 7 years ago, I got into the framers, the founders, the ratification debates in the states and what the Constitution created. And the reason I'm standing in front of you today because of this position specifically is because I learned almost immediately that the office of U.S. Senate has been, in my mind, the most abused and misused position at the federal level. Reason being is that they only have two authorities, that's advice and consent. They're limited. They are actually, as the framers constructed the Senate, they are ambassadors to the federal government from the states, that's it. They are actually supposed to only protect the best interests of their states, no matter what. No matter what. Well, if you look at the last 100 years, many of y'all know your history, the 17th Amendment in 1913, which took away the state's ability to appoint their U.S. senators. Since that point coming forward, U.S. senators have generally, without change, there's been a few exceptions, but generally they have voted consistently to grow the debt, to grow the size and scope of the federal government, and to give it unconstitutional powers, and all at the expense of who? The states. So they've done basically the adverse role of what they were intended to do. People like Roger Sherman and George Mason back in Philadelphia, when they were deciding what they were going to do with the Senate, George Mason called the Senate the mechanism of self-defense for the states. He said, if you're going to make this new government, it's going to have three different branches, they're going to have checks and balances built in. Then the states, who, as you so eloquently said, have all the power, the states who brought the power to the table and offered up a few enumerated delegated powers to create this new government, they should have a check as well. And that's what the Senate was supposed to be. And it basically served that ends until 1913. And when they passed the 17th Amendment, they destroyed state sovereignty. And they destroyed the most important portion of our principles, and that's federalism. And federalism falls back to the exact same thing. Federalism is where the states maintain all the power. All the expansive power relies on the states. The Declaration of Independence is true, it is right, and they did mean what they said. We are free and independent states. We are unified in a federation of republics. This republic, based in federalism, is no longer a republic based in federalism. It is a nation with a capital N based in socialism. And I just want to be free. And I want my kids to be free, and I want future generations of Texans to be free. And anybody who thinks they're free, I suggest you take a chair and go down to the town square in Tyler and put a sign out saying you're going to cut hair for free for anybody that doesn't have any money, and see how long it lasts. You're not free. And they steal from us 24 hours a day from the time you get up to the time you get up. They take money from your check before you ever see it to spend it on things that you do not give your consent for. And then they dangle a few cents back to your state and they say, here, we'll give you this money to offset that budget that you're already in the hole with, because Texas is in debt up to its eyeballs. And we'll dangle it back to your state. We'll say, here, you can have this back, but you know what? You can't feed your kids fried chicken at school lunches. I'm on the school board at Target Independent School District. I use that one a lot because it drives me crazy. You're going to have this water pressure at your shower head. You're only going to have this much water in your toilet bowl. You're going to drive this speed. I mean, and you can take it even farther. You can get into the issues the federal government has no business being involved in that we allow it to be involved in. Like, oh, I don't know, pornography is art and not pornography, or if you burn a flag or a U.S. flag or a Texas flag, and that's freedom of speech, you can't put them in jail for a day or two. All these things that we know better, that they have no business being involved in, have all been derived over the last century. It's been helped by the position of the U.S. Senate not standing guard against that federal overreach. I want to be able to go and do exactly what the framers intended for it to do, and that is say no to any more debt. Anybody that's ever read my website, most of y'all in here have. 3 simple principles. You never vote to increase the debt ever again, ever. That's a non-starter. There's no discussion you can have with me. I don't fall for anecdotal stories. Don't come to me and say my sister's grandma's cousins, whatever. Sorry. You're in your state. Get with your family. Get with your church. Figure out how we're going to manage this. Because we can't do it anymore. We can't. I don't think anybody in here would disagree that we can't continue the path that we're on.
That's right.
Everybody understands sooner or later we're going to have a correction of some kind, right? Of some kind. We don't know what it's going to be, but everybody in here knows it's not going to feel good. Okay, I was at a major Republican function the other night. Major. 1,000+ people. And I had super Republican, hyper Republican individual standing in front of me who said, we have to raise the debt ceiling. And I said, are you conservative? Oh yeah. said, so on one half of you, you're conservative. The other half of you says, we've got to raise the debt. Well, you know what raising the debt means to people like me who are just common citizens who work in the economy and actually participate in this whole monster? Raising the debt ceiling means you are totally comfortable with enslaving me and my children and putting unborn children, unborn generations of Texans in servitude to a tyrannical government. Because all your goal is to grow the federal government. It has nothing to do with protecting our lives or our way of life. It has to do with enslaving everyone to grow the federal government. Gallup had a poll 2 weeks ago. What was the number one worry of all it was a national poll, by the way. Number one worry out of everybody that they polled, by far.
Yeah.
Growth of government. Growth of government. It impedes every ounce of our lives, every inch of it, all day, every day. You can't do anything without the government. And now we've got NSA, well, between the Patriot Act and the NDAA, and now we've had Snowden come forward who, can he get prosecuted? Sure, he can get prosecuted. Can he defend himself for doing something to protect the Constitution? Sure, he can. Did he do it? Am I glad he did it? Yes. I would rather know it than not know it. If he gets prosecuted, I'm glad you did it, fella. All I'm saying is, they take from us liberties we don't even think about. The whole NSA thing, everybody's so mad, they're collecting your data 24 hours a day. Does everybody understand that a basic tenet of freedom is being able to say no? They take that from us. I mean, they took it from us years ago and we didn't even know it. You can't even say no. You can't say no, you can't have my email. No, you can't listen to my phone call. No, you can't collect my data. I don't want you to know my medical records. You can't do that. They take it forcibly. What do? I say you get people in office, especially in this position, who are unwilling to comply. Get somebody in there who says, I'm just a... Hey! Woo! I'm unwilling to go along. In my lifetime, I've wanted to see a citizen statesman. That's what I wanted. I wanted to see somebody who was one of me. Somebody I was raised with. Somebody I worked with. Anybody. I'm sick and tired of groomed,
slick,
pick it. I mean, these affiliated, groomed, chosen, developed political figures that are danced out there in front of us, and we're supposed to say yes. Yes, that's the one because you tell me it is. No. I want common sense. I want somebody who's willing to go there and say, well, we can't do this anymore. And I think everybody understands how much unconstitutional power has been taken already. I mean, you hear me joking about you can't cook fried chicken for your kids in school. Everybody understands that's a mandate that comes down through the federal government. Department of Education. Everyone in this room will have a conversation 50 times this year about what we all know the Department of Ed is unconstitutional. We all know it. Why does it still exist? It doesn't matter what state I'm in. It makes no difference what state I'm in. I can get in a room like this. 80% of them are going to say it's unconstitutional. Why does it still exist? It still exists for the same reason we're going into debt and we're going to collapse over a devalued dollar. Is because I heard an older gentleman tell me one time, he said, Dwayne, all politicians campaign on lowering the debt and cutting the spending. Every single one of them. And we never lowered the debt and we never lowered the spending. I said, that's right. So what I'm telling you today is, I was compelled the end of 12, November, December. Matter of fact, Tim Capps is here. He and I talked about it a little bit back and forth about the possibility that's taking place. Well, I prayed on it a lot. Talked to myself a lot, had a lot of really serious conversations that y'all didn't want to be part of, loud, by myself. It was a slow, fitful decision. When it was finally laid on my heart to run, I got in early last year, seriously, and I finally announced on the Mike Church show on Sirius Satellite back in, I don't remember, June or July. And I was compelled to do this. And there's a big difference. And I've learned that so very well. I've learned that. Being compelled to run for office is totally different than wanting to run for office. And we've got a lot of people that want to run for office. And Steve Stockman is my congressman. I like Steve. But Steve's not compelled to run for office. Steve's been running for office for 20 years. He's been running perpetually for 20 years. He's been in office. I got a kick out of it yesterday. Y'all saw the articles of impeachment. We're going to release the articles of impeachment. He's going to write them up, right? I laugh at, he was supposed to be at a forum with me Monday. I was going to give him because it's 30 days before the election. Great timing. We've been in there for a year. He's been breaking the law for 6 years. What are we doing? That's another story. But being compelled to do this, I have nothing to lose. It's a different kind of a freedom. I don't know if y'all can get what I'm saying. People come up there and say, "Man, you're so you're courage, you're brave, you're doing all that. Boy, I can't believe you. I would never do that." And you go, "Yeah, you would." When you get to a point where you don't care, you do it. Trust me, I'm not standing in front of people and talking and going, "Well, I want to be in front of 100 people tonight. Well, I want to be in front of 1,000 people tonight." I get nervous knees. I don't, because I have nothing to lose. I have everything to gain in the way of freedom and getting the message out there. I am the biggest proponent of federalism you will ever meet in your life. I have people always ask, because there's always one that says, "What are you going to do to fix it?" And I go, "Nothing. I'm one vote. You can't really fix it." If you could get everybody to understand federalism, you could start the path to fixing it. And if you could get, I'm a fiscal guy. The federal government only grows through our money. If you couldn't steal from us, it couldn't grow. And it could necessarily live within those chains that bind it down called the Constitution. But as long as we allow it to expand the debt and run our, what do we call it, our QE infinity, where the Fed can keep injecting money or cash or fiat currency into our economy and devaluing our dollar, you've got to have a point where you say, "No more." And I'd like to see that in my lifetime. I don't want to push it off. The same Republican who was standing in front of me and giving me the, "Well, how are you going to run the government?" I said, "The numbers are still there to run the government." We took in $2.9 trillion last year, according to the Treasury. But hey, who knows what they're giving us? But 2.9 trillion thereabouts. If you added up all of the debt servicing numbers we have to service our debt, all of the entitlement welfare programs, all of them, Department of Health and Human Services, you added up all the military. Don't even cut the military a dime. Don't worry about any one of those 900 plus bases we've got out there. Left it just like it was, and Veterans Affairs, and Medicaid and Medicare. It's only about $2.7 trillion. So when you hear the rhetoric every 3 months about continuing resolution, where we got to raise the debt because we'll shut the government down, which, by the way, it's never been shut down and we save money. We always go back and raise the debt extra and pay everybody for lost time. So it's always a paid vacation for them, and we always lose the services from people not being where they're supposed to be. So that's always a lose-lose deal for the people. But ultimately, when you hear the rhetoric about the Republicans are holding us hostage, the Democrats are holding us hostage, and it's a us-them thing, it's not an us-them thing. It's a them-us thing, okay? The numbers are there to pay for the things that we agreed to. Nobody wants to send any military home. The fact that they would use our military as pawns in a negotiation over budget is evil. I don't get that. I don't get that at all, and especially veterans benefits. Who's going to use veterans benefits while we're funding Planned Parenthood as a negotiating tool during the budget? That's crazy to me. So anyway, it's not the aspect of right versus left or Republicans or who's holding who hostage. What it is, and these are the numbers, and y'all go check it out yourself. There's about 2.5 million people employed by the federal government. Employed, you better use air quotes. Because governments in general don't create jobs, by the way. They create liabilities. Governments don't create anything. They take from you to give you that one. That's all it does. There's 2.5 million people employed by the federal government. Vast majority of those are working in agencies that are not covered under the Constitution. So really, the argument between the federal government and the leadership in the elite few 1,000 miles away and the rest of the people in the entire country is, we got to create so much fear and so much confusion with grandma in Florida and the veterans to make them think we've got to raise the debt ceiling or the whole world's going to explode because we're growing all this government. When in fact, if we could get everybody on the same page and say, no, we're just not going to do that anymore because we know you're going to pay Grandma in Florida, and we know you're going to pay the veterans, and we know we're going to pay the things that we all know we're signed